What's up guys, this is Jonathan back with another video. I'm sorry that I haven't posted recently. I've been very busy with JRH Career Consulting. Thank you for everyone who's been supportive of me, who's reached out to me. I really appreciate it and I'm excited to continue growing this business to help people. So today for this video, I wanted to be able to do kind of a compilation of a lot of my previous videos. I've been getting a lot of questions on how to get a job during this time. You know, having a resume is one thing, but being able to actively go and find a role for yourself is a whole different battle. And for this video, I want to be able to help you be able to get a job and give a little more control into how you can get employment during this time. Let's get into it. So the first recommendation that I have is honestly a fairly obvious one, and that's to apply for jobs. Now, during this time, applying for jobs is definitely the most forward approach, but it's not necessarily always the most successful. And you can be a little more strategic when you are applying for jobs. So there are the large job boards such as Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, which mainly have a lot of the different job descriptions and openings. So when you're going on those types of job boards, make sure that you're looking at a couple different things. One, make sure that you're looking at the date posted, and two, the years of experience. So you want to make sure that you're applying for the role that's most relevant and that's the most recent open, because it gives you a better shot. In addition to that, you also want to make sure that your years of experience align. A lot of people, they just blindly apply for roles and use the easy apply, which is also something I don't recommend, and essentially just go on their way. Make sure that you're taking a close look, and I would personally add your own resume rather than doing an easy apply through LinkedIn. My main opinion on that is because it makes it look like you're putting in a little more effort, and you want to make sure that your resume has its own spin rather than your LinkedIn profile. In addition, you can run into some parsing issues where maybe your LinkedIn profile doesn't pull everything. So just to be on the safer side, I would recommend using that, putting in your own resume. In addition to that, I would also make sure that when you are applying for these different types of roles, that you're using different things like specialty job boards. Now, I've mentioned this previously in other videos, but specialty job boards are essentially places where companies who may not post on larger job boards post on these smaller places specific for an industry. So JobStars, which is known for a lot of different services, actually has a niche job board site. And so you can actually go on there and look for an industry, and it will have several different job boards for specific types of industries. So things like commercial real estate, construction, human resources, manufacturing, anything along those lines. So I would recommend, on top of applying for those actively large ones like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and Indeed, I would also look at JobStars and try to get on some niche job boards. I think this can be really helpful when you're applying for your next role. So for my second tip, the thing that I would recommend is to make sure that you list out your network. So let's say that you've been applying for roles for a couple months and you haven't gotten any traction. The next step would be to make sure that you're doing what it takes to take control of your own employment search. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing that you can do is, like I've mentioned in previous videos, leverage your network. So write out a list of as many people as you know, close, not close. I would start with people that you're close with and then go with former colleagues, alumni association, different things like that, and work on compiling that list. The reason for that is that you're gonna be able to use that list as a way to reach out to certain people about opportunities. As mentioned, not all companies, when they're posting jobs, they could be posting multiple jobs, or you could be talking with people who have an inside knowledge about roles that might open up. So that's just something that you can do to make sure you take a little more control. I think a lot of people, once they're applying, they can feel kind of hopeless if they haven't heard back. So I think this is a great way that you can actively go about finding your own role. So that's definitely a second tip. I would definitely recommend that. Make sure that you do that. It is essential in order to being able to take the next step. So once you've created your list of people that you want to reach out to, the next step is to actually outreach. Now, what does that look like? First, before I even go into the actual practicals, I know that this can be tough. You don't necessarily want to tell people that you have been affected by the pandemic or that you're in a search, and it takes a bit of humility. But at the same time, I do understand, and I know that people that go and take control of their employment search end up being rewarded for that. So that's absolutely essential in what you need to do.
So when you're reaching out to people, there are a couple things that I would recommend. The first is to actually build out a template. Now with this template, the things that you're gonna wanna focus on is that you've essentially why you're reaching out, so that you've been affected by the pandemic and you're in your job search, some of the skills that you've acquired and some of the roles that you're looking for. Now you have to understand that this is gonna be a lot of difference. I don't know, I don't necessarily have anything in mind, I'll keep you in mind, and there's gonna be potentially a lot of rejection or no's. This is okay, and this is part of what happens when you put yourself out there. However, in sales, they teach you when you're cold calling that, for every 100 that you get, you may get 10 or 20. That might even be high. It might be more like 8 or 5. But those 8 or 5 are what's going to drive revenue for you. And so in the same way, when you're searching in your employment, you have to make sure that when you're reaching out, even if it's a couple different people that reach out and open an opportunity, that you make sure that you follow up with that. In addition to that, let's say you have people that tell you that maybe they don't have an opportunity open. You could potentially take advantage of this and actually use this as a way to instruct an informational interview. Now, an informational interview is essentially when you reach out to someone either to learn about their position or the company or different things like that. I have people reach out to me all the time just to learn about Wayfair, to network, even though I don't have an opportunity open. And this is honestly a great practice, mainly because if I ever do think of them or if there's a job position open, they're gonna be the first people that I think of. And so this is something I would recommend if you have extra time on your hands, potentially just setting up a call and using that to network, because you never know if someone leaves and the company needs a backfill. That person, that point of contact for you may have an in to give you an opportunity. So I would definitely recommend that you do that as well. So let's say that you've applied to a bunch of different roles, you've reached out to several different people, yet you still haven't been able to effectively find anything. The third option of what you could do is actually reach out to a third-party agency. Now there are two different types of recruiting. There's in-house recruiting and then there's agency recruiting. In-house recruiting is focusing on recruiting for a specific corporation. So like myself, I recruit specifically for Wayfair. But agencies, they recruit for specific clients. So clients go to them and basically reach out and say, hey, we need to find a role. Can you go and find these people? It is then the agency's responsibility to go out and find certain people that fit the job description, and then they get paid a commission once the role is filled. Now, understanding how agencies work, it can be a hit or miss. And a lot of different ways, you have to make sure that you find someone that you can trust. So if you know anyone in the recruiting world, I would definitely recommend that you reach out to them, get their opinion on agencies. They might be in an agency currently. I think there are a lot of great recruiters that work in agencies, and then there are some that are not. So just make sure that you're doing that. But they have a great insight in the market. There are a lot of different large firms that have several different clients that could potentially either be looking for a role where you might be a fit, or they might be taking on contract roles or different things like that where maybe they don't even post a job description. So this is another option that you could potentially do if you're having a hard time doing the first two tips. If you've made it thus far through the video, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you found these tips helpful. As I mentioned before, if you apply these tips and take a little more control of your employment search, I can guarantee that you'll start to see results and give yourself a little more momentum. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. Check me out on jrhcareerconsulting.com, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.